Hello, beautiful soul family. Rebecca here, your vibe mentor, bringing you another video on how to raise your vibration so you can live your best life. I wanted to talk to you today about judgment. But before we do, I wanted to let you know the doors to the New Earth Construction Team community are open. If you have been looking for community, for support, for assistance in moving through those blocks that hold you back from your purpose and from manifesting abundance, the New Earth Construction Team community is where you want to be. And we would love to invite you to join us by clicking the link below. All right, so let's jump right in. Judgment can be very, very difficult for us to combat. Many times we have the intention of being loving, of being Christ-like, of embodying true and abundant, unconditional love, and yet we struggle with judgment. Many times it can come from our own wounds, the feeling of being unworthy or not enough, or the world not being a safe place. It can come from any time in our life when we did not feel safe, seen, heard, cared for, and loved. And those original wounds will remain in us. The brain's job is to keep us safe. And it thinks that by judging or picking apart all of these other people, we're somehow elevating ourselves or keeping ourselves safe. But of course, this is not true. Another reason that it can be difficult to stop judging others is because we have believed ourselves to be separate. We forgot that we are one with the divine. We are so intimately connected with the divine that we are like the finger on the body of our Creator. We cannot be any more separate from the consciousness that created all that is than my finger is from my body. And yet in that forgetfulness, the separation that we believe to be true, we forget that our brothers and sisters are all going through something very similar as you are. We forget that we are one with the ultimate source of abundance and creation, and that everything we need is promised to us. We don't realize, or we may forget, that the reason we are not able to access these high levels of love and abundance, peace, joy, happiness, fulfillment is because of that belief in separation. It is our perceptions. It is the thoughts that we have chosen that keep us separate from all of those things we seek, as well as our brothers and sisters. And of course, if you have ever felt unsafe, unseen, unheard, uncared for, or unloved for an extended period of time, you are dealing with something called complex trauma. Now, I hesitate to use the big T word because so many people say, oh, I don't have trauma. But truthfully, the entire world is dealing with this. This is the human condition. It is that perceived trauma. If at any time someone made fun of your hair in school and you sunk into something's wrong with me, this is what we're talking about here. And so the brain's job is to keep you safe. And so it perceived that there's something wrong with you. And so if it's believing that there is something wrong with you, then there has to be something wrong with everyone else to keep us on a level playing field. I sometimes call it the trauma brain. I sometimes call it the wounded ego. But regardless, it can be very difficult to control, to stop doing, because it is a survival mechanism. It is coming from the limbic brain, the part of your brain that is the oldest. It's sometimes called the reptilian brain. It's in charge of keeping you safe. It's the part of your brain that is in charge of fight or flights. It's the part of your brain that helped you run from the tiger when you were being chased. It is subconscious, which means below our conscious awareness, which means very difficult to control. It's kind of like it's hanging out in your blind spot. You can't see it coming. So how do we stop judging others? How do we stop judging ourselves? It's one and the same. We do this by seeing that every other person is part of us, an extension of us. We are all in this together, and they are likely experiencing very similar feelings as to what you're feeling, even if it's coming from a different circumstance. a different situation, a different skin on the outside. But many times we are all feeling something very similar. We are all in this together. Now, if you prefer the scientific perspective, you can look at, dark matter or atoms, or just the sheer fact that an atom shifts its state of being by being observed. That consciousness is known in science as much as it is in spirituality. This is common, everyday, universal concepts. This is basic everyday life that we need to understand here. And it doesn't matter what umbrella you prefer to put it under. That our consciousness is intimately connected with the consciousness that created all that is. And that is how we are one. That is how we are intimately connected. We can also take a psychological perspective and look at it from the perspective that each person does what they feel they need to do to survive. Now, whether or not it is true, whether or not they have chosen resourceful methods to meet their needs, they are simply trying to survive. And they are also coming from their reptilian brain, their fight or flight, their subconscious, the wounds, the wounded ego that hides in our blind spot. So when we start to shift our perspective and ask the question, instead of judging and saying they shouldn't have done that, they should have done this, right? We should all over each other. Instead, let's start asking the question, what would make someone do such a thing? There must be, there always is, in their mind, a valid reason for the things they have done. That if they lash out at you or they call you names, that likely someone somewhere down the road did that to them. And they are hurting. They are suffering, and they don't know how to heal that wound. That doesn't mean that we have to take on responsibility for that. It doesn't mean that we have to subject ourselves to that. In fact, healthy boundaries are encouraged here. But we can give them unconditional love from a safe distance. We can understand and we can forgive. We can see that every hurtful or unresourceful behavior comes from a place of pain and wounding. We can remember that the thing that they need most is likely love. This path, this life that we are living can be very counterintuitive. That if you've ever lived with a dog, you know that they can be very fun-loving and very excitable. And as they grow and mature, if they don't get the exercise and the attention they need, they actually start to act kind of neurotic. So then they act out, they chew a shoe, or heaven forbid, your baseboard. And we think that the response, or some do think that the response is, this is not a dog training video, so I'm not an expert here, don't shoot the messenger, just an analogy. But many would think that the dog should be punished for misbehavior, when really what it needs is to have its needs met, is to feel love, to be seen, to go on a walk, to run at the dog park, to play ball, to get your attention. The go-to 5: safe, seen, heard, loved, and cared for. Another example of this counterintuitive life would be that we are like the most exotic sports car on planet Earth. We are a soul having a human experience. We are consciousness in a body, here to experience life and to grow, but we were never given the instructions on how to drive this sports car, how to play the game called life. Now, every car we've driven before this accelerated by pushing on the gas. But that's not how this car works. That's not how you play this game called life. In fact, if it's counterintuitive, that would suggest that the key is to let off the gas, to coast, to step into flow, to allow yourself to flow merrily down the stream. And the same is true for our brothers and sisters. That as we see people doing things that don't make sense, they're unresourceful behaviors, from the outside, we can see so clearly the thing that you are doing wrong. We want to ask the question, have you not figured out yet that the victim mentality is not going to serve you 54 freaking years later? When will you try something new and different? But that approach does not land on receptive ears. That is the opposite of what they need. What they need is love, compassion, understanding. And we can approach it from a safe perspective, from a boundaried perspective, by asking the question, from what place of pain does that behavior come from? What need are they trying to get met? What wound are they trying to avoid? Every single person out there, including the person who commits the most heinous crimes, is acting from a place of wounding and from belief in not enoughness. They are trying to survive. And so love is the answer. Compassion is the answer. Understanding. Putting down the judgment. And the last reason to put down the judgment is not only because it doesn't help, doesn't fix anything, it doesn't cause them to change their behavior. All it does is return that energy to us. That as we send out negative thoughts, negative energy, judgment, ridicule, criticism towards them, we are cultivating that in our own body. After this video, do an exercise. Notice something that you love. I have this beautiful, ginormous hibiscus tree behind my monitor, which happens to have 3 flowers today. It had 5 yesterday. Spend time with something like that and say, wow, how beautiful and amazing you are. Give it at least, Abraham Hicks likes to talk about 17 seconds as creating momentum around a rampage. Give it at least 17 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute. Watch how that feeling of love, the growing high vibration in your body, amplifies as you focus on admiration of that beauty. And then shift it and spend 17 seconds. I will not encourage any more than that, criticizing it, judging it. What's wrong with you? Why'd you lose so many leaves? I don't even want to do this to my poor plant. But you will feel the difference in your body. This is what happens when they say what you send out comes back to you. You are creating through stress hormones in your body. By admiring beautiful things, you create happy hormones. By criticizing and judging, you create stress hormones, which creates disease and dis-ease, which also is very restrictive and will block anything positive that you are trying to draw into your life. And in fact, you will start to draw in negative things that you don't want, because that is your frequency, that's your emanation, that's your vibration. It is scientific. So just because we lack understanding of someone's motivation does not make it our place to judge. And in fact, it will keep us from creating the life that we love. So try to see where they're coming from. Try to understand what they're feeling. And when we can get below the surface and really look at their true motivations, then we will see what they actually need. And while I am not a proponent of fixing others or taking responsibility for others, I am very much a proponent of taking responsibility for your own life, which includes putting down the resistance and refraining from judgment. And with that, I will close. I love you, my friends, so, so, so much. I would love to see you in the New Earth Construction team community, where we are this week actually going to do a live brain spotting session, a live group brain spotting session. So if you follow me, you know that unworthiness wound, the feeling of not enoughness, the world's not safe, all of those blocks that keep us from our purpose, from manifesting abundance in our life, those all are healed by something called brain spotting. I am a brain spotting facilitator. I like to whip out my magic wand. We will use the pointer to find the access point through your eyes to your limbic brain to start to bring up and heal those traumas so they are removed from your body and you can live the life that you were meant to live, designed to live, the purpose that you are perfectly imperfect for. All right. Check out the link below if you would like to join us. Otherwise, I will see you on the next video. Namaste, my friends. I love you.